Hello, hello. This is Yuri with Moving Sales Professionals and Let's Talk Moving podcast. And I have back with me Larry O'Toole with Gentle Giant. Great to have him back. It's been a while. We talked probably, about a year and a half, maybe even two. Yeah, it's been a while. So I just wanted to check in with you, see how business
Sure.
is going, how you feeling about the current landscape and everything. Obviously, things went back and forth, changed a little bit since last time we talked. So tell me what you're thinking.
Well, we just keep focusing on doing our job, and we're managing to keep growing at a fairly slow pace, but growing and getting enough work. Of course, we have the challenge of finding enough people at the right time. We just lost, I think, about 72 workers that had to go back to Europe at the end of their visa. A few of them might have come from Honduras, but most of them from Europe.
Well, since you
But
brought that subject up, how do you feel? Obviously, I'm not gonna say anything negative or positive. People that know me know my views well. How do you feel the current political landscape is affecting the moving industry?
it's sort of like waiting for the shoe to drop. I mean, right now, we obviously focus on higher end clientele because when you really invest in doing the job right and having everybody well trained and having a job ladder and a system where people can make good money, most customers are price shopping and they'll obviously go for a cheaper option. But our customers, they're looking for us in the first place. I mean, they'll just call us and book because they want a guaranteed service. They want a company where there's the least probability of anything going wrong, number one. And number two,
Right.
if anything does go wrong, it's well taken care of.
And now for a word from our sponsors. If you're a moving business owner, you may have already heard of Moversville, an email marketing service that helps moving companies increase, repeat, and referral business. But have you heard of Moversville Connect? Moversville Connect is an incredible resource for all things moving. They feature an array of vendors and services that cater specifically to the moving industry. You can find companies that provide moving software, moving sales services, marketing services, moving equipment providers, and much, much more. Visit moversville.com today to learn more.
So, how it's going with the average consumer and the companies that cater to them, I can't really speak to that.
Well, yeah, I mean, you
I
guys
really
focus on
don't
the
know.
higher clientele. Obviously, you're selling value with as many years. Obviously, the
Right.
Gentle Giant has been around. I'll be
Yeah,
well-respected company, so it's easier to sell value when people know the value.
that's right. And so far so good for us. We really don't pay much attention to what's going on outside of our own hemisphere, so to speak. So hopefully everyone's fine. I mean, as they all often say, people always have to move and they have to find a way to do it. And often movers are the only option if you can't do it yourself. So hopefully people are keeping their head above water. But as far as the housing market, I couldn't really speak to that because our clientele don't seem to be concerned about that. They pay whatever they need to do, whatever they need to pay, and they hire us. I mean, we do get some customers that hire us even though they may not be high rollers, but they really want a good job and they're willing to pay a bit extra. But it's like who knows what's going to happen when you talk about the political situation. It's very unpredictable. I mean, if you talk to anybody that was around 50 years ago, can't tell you
I
if you told
wasn't.
them about this, they'd think it was some kind of satire or something that somebody had made up because it's certainly very strange, like the whole process is just mind-boggling.
Right. Yeah, and I feel the same way about it. And I find it interesting. I find myself as a sales guy talking directly to customers, booking jobs. I find myself often telling customers, especially the ones that want to spend $400 or $500, I find myself telling them, look, day labor these days costs 200 to 250 bucks per person per day. And as you know, there aren't too many people around to do it for that price anymore for a reason. So
Right.
if that's the case, then what I'm offering you, which could be, let's say, at $600, is value for you at that price because you're getting that service from a great company, right? But like it's almost like we're using the political landscape, almost have to use it as a tool to book some of these smaller jobs. And otherwise, it's just, you have that threshold for every company. For smaller companies, it's obviously it's a little lower because they have to sell a price a little bit more than they have to sell value. But ultimately, what's going to happen, of course, for every moving company that's doing the job, at the end of the day, if the cost of our labor and the cost of everything else is increasing, so is our price. Because at the end of the day, costs for everything, supplies, labor, trucks, insurances, everything related to the industry is increasing. It's certainly not going down. And people think that it is. They're going to find out very quickly that the labor that's out there and that labor is not licensed. That labor is not labor that you're going to be able to get, liability coverages or anything like that. If anything happens to your walls, floors, items, etc., they're going to find that it's not going to be worth whatever it is that they're spending. Because at the end of the day, if you have to buy yourself a new couch, that new couch is gonna, depending where you go, of course, is gonna cost you probably anywhere from 6,000 to, or sorry, 600 to $2,500 easily, if not more sometimes.
Right.
So that 200, $300 that that person is saving potentially by getting cheap labor may hurt them a lot more in the long run when they have to buy that new couch.
Does your company need more creative marketing and ad campaigns to improve traffic and organic leads? Well, Moving Sales Professionals has a solution for you. We have partnered with social media marketing agency that has over 300 million views on their ads and videos across social media, and they have generated over $35 million for their clients over the last 10 years alone. Their services include content creation, social media ads, pay-per-click campaigns, website and funnel development, Google Ads, email marketing campaigns, lead generation, and much, much more. For limited time only, they have discounted rates for their services. Sign up for a free consultation call with us via our Calendly link on our website or below this video.
Absolutely. I mean, I know there's some great mom and pop companies who,
Sure.
because they're small and they have a very low overhead, can deliver a fairly good service for a modest price. But those people are hard to find and they're usually booked. But
Right. So that would be one thing. The other thing too is that, you know, I mean, it's something that I say to companies and to people all the time. If you're gonna be willing to do something for a low price, you need to make sure that you bundle these moves together. Pick a day in the week where you're not that where you're statistically not very busy in comparison to other days, and have one truck that's going to be stacked of these one item, two item, three item moves where they could do, somewhere between three and seven of them potentially, depending on the size, where making, let's say, hypothetically speaking, $50 profit on every job. If you do five of them, then that's worth it, potentially. Not to all companies, of course, but
well,
to
it's
some
funny.
companies, it might be
It's
worth it.
it's funny you say that because it brings back memories of when I first got started. And yeah, there were days like that when you would string 3 to 5 or 6 jobs together.
Mm,
Sometimes moving specific items, like a lot of people need to move pianos
hmm
and they're not that well off. They're like musicians or singers. And I
right.
can remember days when I strung 8 piano moves together. You could do them all very inexpensively, and you're talking about big heavy pianos that they might have got for 200 or 300 bucks.
Right.
But anyway, those days are gone. We're not taking care of those customers anymore, but I'm sure somebody is.
Well, you don't want to, like, at the end of the day, it's not worth having your guys break their back over moves like that for $50. You got to take care of your people. Yeah, if you don't, at the end of the day, if you don't take
Right.
care of your people, it's just not worth it. And like we're talking, obviously, there's a lot less day labor out there these days that you could get to do this type of job potentially for you. But then again, is it worth it getting them to do this job for you, especially if you have a reputation to care about and brand to carry about, which is obviously something that we talk a lot about.
Well, there's certainly companies out there whose drivers are independent contractors.
Sure.
And even though it's not really legal, except for interstate,
Hmm.
there's still people like that. And those contractors obviously can pay direct cash to
Hmm.
the workers. And the company doesn't seem to be in too much danger because they are outsourcing the whole thing to the independent contractors. So they don't get in trouble for not obeying the law. And I'm aware of a number of companies that do that, but hopefully it's under control. It's not too rampant, but they are out there.
I mean, I can tell you now having the experience of working with companies in Canada, having experience working with companies in UK, having experience working with US companies, our market here in US is definitely a lot more regulated. And there's definitely a lot more penalties in place if somebody does not follow regulations. If they get caught, of course, it's a painful experience financially and otherwise. So it's there's definitely less of that happening in this country versus, other places. But at the same time, it does still happen. And
Yep.
it absolutely impacts our industry in a negative way because on one side, obviously, it's easier for qualified companies with value to take advantage of, uh, frankly, take advantage of somebody that's had a bad experience because they can say, well, that's why you had a bad experience. You chose a cheap mover or you chose an unlicensed company
Right,
versus pricing value where yes, you pay more, but you pay more to have that peace of mind, to have that understanding that the job is going to be done correctly, that it's going to be done right, and that your items are going to be delivered safely, whether it's a long
right.
distance move or a local job or whatever the case may be. So with all your years of experience, Larry, what are you thinking 2026 has for us?
Well, obviously, you hope that things are going to hold together. And I'm not very good at sort of trying to make predictions. There's a lot of talk about AI and how it's overly invested in and how it's going to crash eventually. And of course, it'll everything will come back again. But this all happened 25 years ago with the dot-com bubble. So who knows? Who knows? I mean, people say there's nothing to worry about, but there's all this money involved in AI. And AI, of course, is going to be a huge part of the future, but they're not making much of a profit at the moment. And everyone's just looking at the future, what's going to happen. And the government seems to be asleep at the wheel because they're not forcing these companies to generate their own power. Like, okay, you want to do a big data center, you're on your own. Generate your own electricity, which would be the intelligent thing to do. But I don't think we can expect much of that in this environment. So you worry about what'll happen if everything falls apart, and hopefully it'll just be a blip on the screen. But there's certainly a lot to worry about. Donald Trump seems to be defying the odds. Most other people with dementia seem to go down a lot faster than he is, but it it will occur, he's on the way, I mean, but it's amazing how it seems to be going slowly, but you can clearly see from one day to the next. Like you see the speech he gave in, in Pennsylvania yesterday. It seemed fine, but if you compare it to the last time he did that, it was a notch below it. So he's going to keep going downhill. Who knows how long it's going to last? I mean, the people down there were chanting 4 more years.
Well,
You can just
thankfully not.
imagine.
Thankfully, we only get two terms, and that's part of the
Well,
democracy, and that's why it should be. And I mean, I don't want to get technical, and there's going to be people that won't agree with me. But I mean, frankly, I've been fairly open and speaking my mind. I'm not a big Trump supporter, to put it mildly, and I don't want to get political, but at the same time, as someone that's been in this country since I was 11 years old, and I'm just as much of an American even though I wasn't born here, I'm just as much of an American as anyone I would think, and I certainly bleed red, white, and blue. But at the same time, I'm also from Ukraine, and that's where I was born, and I couldn't possibly support anything that's happening right now in regards to that country. Now, that's of course not related to moving, but in general, I think that America is better than that. The promise that this country brings and brought, you can say what you want about illegal, not illegal. At the end of the day, this country is, and always will be a country of immigrants. And at the end of the day, that's what make this country great in the first place. And whether some people choose to accept it, choose to admit it, but everyone here, unless you're Native American, is first, third, fifth, 10th, whatever generation, but you all have roots that are going from somewhere else coming here. And the way that this country was and should be is what made this country great because the greatest minds in the world came here. They brought their knowledge, they brought their experience, they brought their things. I think they're better. If you want to control illegal immigration and what have you, I think there are better ways to do this. And to me, the better ways would be, frankly, look, you want to block future illegal immigration, I can understand that, right? But when you have a country, when you have 20 plus million people that are in the country illegally, to ask those people to pack up and leave is a very hard task and impossible to enforce in full. So to me, give everyone that, of course, hasn't done anything illegal. They just try to live their life and feed their family and what have you, right? Give them a path to citizenship. Have them pay something towards our national debt. Have them do some, work that's charity related or whatever work that they need to do to help this country better, to focus on some of the issues that we have in this country. Give them a path that allows them to get there in the next 10 years and focus and make sure that no more illegal people cross into the country.
well,
Those are the things that we should be focused on instead of the craziness that's going on. But once again, like I got a little political there, I don't want to
look, I
get
mean,
too much into that, but
it's got a little bit to do with our industry because we need workers. All of these illegal workers are a gift from the Republican Party because we had people coming in here and doing the work no one else wanted to do
right.
since
Still do.
World War
They still
since
don't
World
want to do it, by the
yeah,
way.
since World War II. So during the Clinton administration, there was an effort to bring in these H-2 visas, H-2B, and
Hmm.
other visas of that nature. And all we had to do was give people these visas, and they would come in, do the work, and they'd then go home. That's what happens with our workers that are on H-2Bs. But
Right.
Newt Gingrich destroyed that because he got Clinton to agree that they'd start with 166,000 visas and go from there, when there was a need for several million. And most of those people would have been happy to stay to spend 3 months of the year with their families in whatever country they were from and come here and make really good money, but for their standards to send home and have a pass that they could come back and forth. Instead, they were forced to bring their whole families in here because you could, it became too terrifying to go back and forth across the border every year and live in squalor in a lot of cases. None of them wanted that. They would have liked to have kept things the way they were, and they were forced into this. And now we have the same idiots that created this problem, bitching and moaning about immigrants. And the problem, which seems complicated, was as simple as ABC, and a sixth grader could have fixed it. But they just trying to fight for votes. And if you say anything intelligent, you're accused of bringing in undesirables. So anyway, like you say, you could talk about it forever, but it certainly would help us. And this visa's mad because it's a lottery visa. So people that would have been coming in here for 20 years and going home every year
Mm.
run the risk of we can't get the lottery and can't get them in here, even though they've been here for so many years. They've got to the top of the pay scale. They're making close to $40 an hour. And now they can't come back if we don't get the lottery. So it's madness. And plus who do you
I
think's driving our
right,
class one trucks?
right.
It's these guys. So I mean, if they can't come in, we're screwed. You can't get anybody to listen to reason.